Coming up on today's episode, we break down the new hotness in the horror genre, Late Night with the Devil.
Please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, this is a spoiler-free show.
I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
Now that we got that out of the way,
We got some rules around here.
there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score up to 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, a live television broadcast in 1977
Yes, since 1977.
goes horribly wrong,
Then what went wrong?
unleashing evil
Dies tonight!
into the nation's living rooms.
Donna, that guy comes into America's living room.
Production.
It's alive!
This movie was directed by Cameron and Carlin Cairns. These brothers are no strangers to the horror genre. They directed some smaller budget horror before, 100 Bloody Acres being one of them, and Scare Campaign being the other. Besides that, they've done some shorts in the past, and they both worked on some episodic TV as well. This movie looks really good. I really love the look of this movie. It looks great.
Oh, good evening, night owls, and thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again.
They took great care to make sure that the zeitgeist and the vibes of the 70s was injected into this movie. They also managed to recreate the manic environment and the manic pace of a live TV show. It was very awesome. So the movie is a found footage type of gimmick. They find this lost episode and they air it, and we get in documentary form the events of this episode and this night. It's really cool. There's black and white stuff as well as color stuff. The black and white stuff is like the backstage stuff and what else is going on behind the scenes, and then the color stuff is what the audience sees and what the TV audience sees on their set, and it's really cool. I really dig the look of everything. I think they did a really good job of making sure it was very authentic and the audience felt that it was authentic as well. They really did a good job making sure that the vibes of like a real talk show was there. Even the band was pretty solid. I loved how the band was incorporated into it. All in all, this was a great production. All that said, folks, this movie initially got a full 2 for production, but the filmmakers decided to use some AI-generated art in their movie as some stills, as some intermission artwork for the actual show, Night Owls. I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. You had this very good production and everything was so authentic, was so spot on for the time period, but then they decided to take this route with some images, not all images, that's the very confusing part. They didn't decide to use AI for all of the artwork used. They just decided to use it for 3 still images that are used as an interlude for the show. But it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't look good. I'm pretty darn sure a real live artist would have done a better job with that artwork, 1000%. In fact, on X, there was a conversation going on when all this news broke out, and some artists recreated those stills, and they looked drastically better than what the AI generated, and that's very problematic, and it's a deeper and longer conversation that has to be had about that on a different platform. Maybe we'll discuss that in further length on The Morgue when this movie drops on Shudder in April. And because of that AI nonsense, unfortunately, it had to lose a full point for production, so it only ends up with a 1 in this category. Story.
Okay, what's the story?
The script and the story for this movie was also written by the Cairns brothers, and let me tell you what, this is a solid, man. It's a solid story. It does have some issues that I will get to in a bit, but let's talk about the positives here. The flow of the acts is very well paced once we get into the nitty gritty and into the main story, and it just kind of flies by. You get into this story and they did a great job of making sure you're captivated and you're just dug in from the point where this lost episode is shown. The issue with me lied with the beginning of this movie. It dragged heavily in the beginning because of a really big exposition dump explaining the downfall of this character. It's a documentary style movie, and they are talking about the host, which is David Dastmalchian's character, which we'll get to him. He did a great job. We'll get to him in the next segment. But they're talking about his character and what happened and his story, and it's very long. And I understand maybe they didn't want to interrupt the actual lost episode with the exposition of the story here, so they just put it all right in the front, which is fine. I get it, but I feel that it was a very slow, sloggy start to this movie. But once you get going, man, once you really get going and they show you this lost episode, and you're introduced to the characters and the type of show it is, you really fall into it, and you really enjoy it. You really kind of just stay there and watch it as a TV show, and it works very well. The third act of this story really shines, and it will leave audiences with a memorable ending. Is it a polarizing ending? Only you guys will decide that, but I really enjoyed the ending of this movie. It definitely elevated the entire movie overall at the end of the experience. There is a little bit once you're in the show does it doesn't drag, but the show takes its time building the suspense and the tension leading up to Lily entering the show, and Lily is the little girl who's possessed. Once she's in the show, things start to really rev up. But before that, the show is bringing in different characters and talking to different people and kind of just building this vibe. And it's very well done. I like the vibes that they're building here. I wish they would have added a little bit more of the Lily possession stuff earlier in the movie. That way we got some more of it. I felt it was a little shortchanged, to be honest. Once we got into it, I wanted more of that, and they kind of just did a small segment. I understand the framework of an actual television show allows for just let's say, maybe a 5 to 10 minute segment on this, but I feel that I should have started a little earlier and gone on for a little longer. The story works very well, and the third act is very good. I just wish there was more, honestly. I wish there was more. And I wish the beginning wasn't so slow to start. And for that, this movie gets a 1 for story. Ensemble.
Any of them move, you fry 'em.
The entire cast in this movie does a great job. Every character, no matter how small their part or how big their part, I feel they were an integral part of this puzzle and making this movie a success. From the host, David Dastmalchian, to his guests, to the band leader, to his producer in the back, to the audience members. Everything just worked and clicked very well. There was very good chemistry. There was very good character dynamics surrounding all of them. I really enjoyed how they all delivered their dialogue and how they all had their back and forth with each other. They felt really human. They felt really real. And that's a big testament to the cast and how their characters were written and developed throughout. All these characters have a development. They have a story arc that gets fulfilled no matter the length of screen time. And I think that's brilliant because it makes all the people very memorable and very easy to like. They did a great job with that. The casting also needs to be commended because they picked the right people. David Dastmalchian, man, this is his first feature role in a lead, and he blows it out of the water.
To host a nationally syndicated talk show.
And I'm trying to help you keep it on the air.
He honestly, he's worth the price of admission alone. I think he does a fantastic job. He knows the character. He truly understands the persona of the late night host. I remember reading in an article, he did mention how he's a big fan of that kind of TV work. And he shows here about his knowledge, the intimate knowledge he has about that kind of industry and that kind of entertainment. And he blows it out of the water. I'm very proud of him because he has made his career as these supporting characters. Polka Dot Man, for instance, comes to mind. I used to call him Polka Dot Man all the time before this movie because, you know, he was a supporting character and I always forgot his name. But I will forget his name no longer, folks. David Dastmalchian excels in his first lead role here, and I really recommend watching this movie because of his portrayal as this late night TV host. Another stand-up performance that I can say is Lily, played by Ingrid Torelli. She plays, I believe she's 12 or 13 in this movie, and she's possessed by a demon because of her backstory. I'm not going to get into that. It's pretty fun, so I'll leave that for you guys to discover. But she comes into the show possessed with the doctor, who's her caretaker, and she does a great job of being this very soft-spoken, very charming and innocent at first. And then once she's possessed, she does a great job of flipping that switch and being very evil, and it just works. The possession part, they don't do a lot of heavy possession makeup like an Exorcist and all that stuff, but they do apply makeup to her face to show that there is a difference in appearance, and I think it's just as effective, and it's minimal, but it's just as effective. And with all that, folks, I really love the characters, and I love the cast portraying those characters, and for that, this movie gets a nice solid 2 for ensemble. Horror.
Is it scary?
All the horror fun happens in the latter part of the movie. As I mentioned in the previous segment for story, the story takes a little bit to build up, and that's not a bad thing. It takes its time introducing the characters and setting the vibe up in the studio for the studio audience and for the viewers at home. That's one of the best parts of this movie, that it does build up that vibe and it does build up that suspense and that tension to the point where you as the person watching this movie, this mockumentary, if you will, you're waiting for just things to happen and for people to come on the show. You're waiting for this. You are in hot anticipation, just as the audience is in the show and the viewers at home in the movie. I think that was super well done. The blood and the gore and all that fun horror stuff happens in the latter part of the movie, as I mentioned, more towards the third act.
Get out there, Mr. Midnight.
And folks, it's super effective. It is very impactful. A lot of it is practical. There is CG combined with it, but I think it does a great job of mixing all that together, and it looks good. It works very well with the way everything is shot. Because of the era and stuff, there is this foggy graininess to the film that works with the CG lighting they used and all the cool effects. It looks really good on screen, and it's very effective. As mentioned with story as well, I do wish they started the possession stuff earlier, just because it was so good and so well done.
Good to see you again, Jack.
Lily, return to me.
That it would have been more fun to witness more of that cool demonic stuff, because it was definitely the highlight of the movie, and also worth the price of admission, along with David Dastmalchian's performance. And for horror, this movie gets a nice full 2. Legacy.
So what do you think?
This is a very good movie, but does it warrant the hype behind it? That's the big question here, because it came through with a very positive campaign of the next and greatest thing in horror. And let me tell you, folks, yes, it's very good, but I've seen better. It's not as scary as they make it out to see, and this is why I keep saying that they should have added more of the possession stuff into the movie, because then their blurbs and all the hype would have been met. I don't think it surpassed any bar by any means. Honestly, I think it was a very good movie, a very good horror movie, a very good watchable horror movie. That's exactly what Shudder needs. I can't wait till this drops on Shudder so all you guys can watch it if you haven't had a chance to go out in theaters and watch it. I'm also very glad that it got a bigger release after all the hype, so I guess that's a positive. But I feel that this movie could have been better if they added more of the possession to the earlier part of the show. Maybe if they had Lily come on the show at the beginning and had segments with her talking every now and then throughout the show, I think that would have been very effective. And then you have all the AI nonsense that's surrounding this movie. Folks, this is a very heated topic of conversation. I myself feel that the AI in this movie is wrong and unacceptable and unwarranted. I feel that if you had the ability to go and make other artwork for the show, you could have done that same thing with those 3 images you made. And it sucks. It really does suck because this movie came in strong. It came in hot. And everyone in the community, including myself, was very hyped about this. And then the news broke about the AI, and it broke a lot of hearts. It really did. Because in the horror community here, we are a group of people that love this genre and would work for free if the project is worth it. And I think this project would have brought some great attention to whatever artist volunteered to add their work here, or whatever artist they sought to do this work for them. The fact that they opted to just do that for just 3 images was a dumb decision. Very stupid of them, honestly. And it sucks that this has to be a conversation when we talk about this movie, because it does so many things right. And unfortunately, this thing that they did was very wrong, and it negates a lot of the good stuff for a lot of people. As a movie critic and as a person who enjoys movies, I'm not gonna destroy this thing because of the AI art used. I think the internet is doing a good job of doing that, and I think the filmmakers are feeling the heat as it is just because of the discovery of these AI images. So I think they will have to figure out how to unravel this mess and get back in the good graces of the artists in the horror community, because we are many out here, and we need to be heard and we need to be seen. And I think it was very wrong of them to use computers to generate these images when they were already doing a lot of practical stuff. And it sucks because the movie looks so authentic and so on point, and the use of these AI images, even though they were quickly used on screen, the fact that we, as the audience, know that this was the case here, it's a big bummer, honestly. And I wish they would have made a different decision here. And for that, this movie, unfortunately, only gets a 1 for legacy. So to tally it up, folks, Late Night with the Devil received a 1 for production, a 1 for story, a 2 for ensemble, 2 for horror, and a 1 for legacy, bringing its total up to 7. I really enjoyed this movie. As I mentioned before, I think it's a very good movie. It just sucks that the stench of AI is all over this thing. And the big shame here is that this is a good freaking movie that you can recommend and tell people to go, hey, go watch this movie, because you will enjoy the hell out of this movie. It's a simple watch. It's a quick watch. It's very linear. It's easy to understand. The characters are great. The horror is awesome. The suspense and the tension built was very good. It's just a darn shame that they had to make that stupid decision to use artificial intelligence artwork in their movie, being that they already have a bunch of practical stuff, in the movie. But then that brings up a bigger question. Are we sure that all that stuff is actually practical artwork? That's the problem with this conversation, that you start nitpicking all the stuff in the movie and you start breaking it down, and then you realize, hey, what else is going on here? Is there more AI artwork in this movie? What else is done here that we don't know about? And becomes a very negative, nasty conversation that unfortunately this is not the platform for that. But it really does suck that this is the conversation that has to be had when talked about this movie. Because as I mentioned before, a lot of things were done right with this movie, and it is a movie that I recommend to go watch, aside from all the AI nonsense. Can't wait for you guys to go watch this when it drops on Shudder in April.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tell all your friends, your family, and their pets and buddies to come to YouTube and subscribe to CorpseFeed. We have spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we also have the CorpseFeed official podcast dropping every Tuesday for you guys. So we have plenty of content every single week for all the buddies and fiends out there. So don't forget to come to the channel and subscribe, and also check us out on all the socials. We are everywhere, folks. We will see you on Friday for another episode. And remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.
I just wanted to say goodbye.